So, as you can see, there are some people reacting to Carnival Cruise. More videos are coming out about their personal opinions about how they feel about the Carnival Cruise. And I've never been on a Carnival Cruise. I've never been on any cruise. And so I'm learning a lot about these cruises, and that a lot of people are not excited about going on some of these cruises. But I was looking at this woman's her her disappointment with the people that have been commenting more and more on these cruises, and I guess
no more boots on the ground and no more fan clapping on our ships. And now black people are all pissed off about it. Not all black people. The ones who are calling Carnival Cruise racist and making videos saying that Carnival Cruise doesn't want black people on their ships and they're not going to give their money to Carnival Cruises anymore, that was the intention. They don't want your money. I've been on a cruise. I've never been on a Carnival cruise, but I've been on a very expensive cruise. And I don't want to hear boots on the ground. I don't want to hear your fans clapping. And I don't want to hear hip hop music in the club all night long. News alert. You're not the only people on that ship. There are other people on that ship who paid the same amount of money you did or more. So what gives you the right to think that you can take over an entire ship? You guys have seen the videos. They take over the whole pool area, and they're just clapping their fans and stomping around, and other guests who don't want to do that have to endure that. 9 times out of 10, they go to another part of the ship where there isn't a pool, or they just go to their rooms. Because vacation is for relaxation. Sure, have fun. But black people getting on TikTok and saying that Carnival Cruise is being racist against black people is not the truth. And the fact that these black people who don't know how to act in public are now saying that they're victims of racism is complete bullshit. And I have a solution. The black people who think that Carnival Cruise is targeting them and doesn't want their dollars, and you guys are not going to spend your dollars on their ship anymore, cool. That was the intention. Good job, Carnival Cruise. You black people who are offended, go start your own cruise line and stomp around and clap your fans and listen to hip-hop music all night long for as many days as you want to. But Carnival Cruise said no more. And are they targeting certain people? Absolutely. They don't want to hear your hip hop music because their guests don't want to hear it. Their guests don't want to see the boots on the ground. You guys take over the whole effing pool area. What get the audacity? You guys, like, you think you could just get on a ship and take over the whole damn ship because you want to have some dance and some fan clapping? Like, there's no one else on the ship but you. The level of self-entitlement is beyond me. But then black people want to say that white people are racist. And now they want to call out Carnival saying that the Carnival Cruise Line are being racist against black people. They're not. Start your own cruise line. The black culture and the ratchetness of it is astounding. And it doesn't matter. You guys make jokes, oh, black people can't have nice things. You can't. You can't. And again, this video is not for all black people. This is for the group of y'all who are ratchet as hell. You know, the ones with the bonnets outside. The ones who are tearing up your neighborhoods and scamming each other. Support black businesses and scamming the very business. So, that's just for you, a solution. Start your own cruise line. And then you don't have to, you can let only black people on it. How about that? Because remember, y'all had Essence. Y'all can't even do that anymore. Let me know down in the comments. Does that survive?
okay. So I hope you heard enough of what this one particular person had had to say about an experience, or I guess with looking at the opinions of people who have, because if you listen to her closely and I listened to it closely. She said she had never really been on a Carnival cruise, so that was one I was wondering, okay, well, why would it upset her if she hadn't actually been on a Carnival cruise herself? The other thing is that I wanted to add this. She said the level of entitlement. And I think what's going on here is, if you really pay close attention to what she's saying, she mentioned that she has been on a cruise and she's been on expensive cruises. She's also said in her video that you guys take over the whole pool area. And the way she said it, I would have thought she had been on a Carnival cruise herself, but it sounds like she hasn't, because she says she's been on cruises, but expensive cruises, but she hadn't been on a Carnival cruise. I believe she's probably seen videos and seen clips of the fights, and I've seen them too myself, and it is sad. However, not everybody in those fights were black. And I'm going to say that again. The other thing I wanted to add is when she said, I've been on a cruise, but expensive cruises. It's almost as if she's trying to let people know that she is upper class black and she's not been on the Carnival cruises. She's been on expensive cruises, which means she can afford to go on better cruises. That's the message that I'm getting. The other thing is by her comments, she says, you people. So she has, even though being black herself, which she admits in the video, she says not all black people. So in other words, she's saying that we're not a monolith. We don't all agree with the behaviors. So she says that the people who are saying that the cruise ship Carnival is being racist to blacks, if you look at the list of rules that they have, those rules are intended for a group of people that happen to be, mostly their biggest customers are black customers. So it is intentional towards, and she admitted in her video that it was intentional towards that group. So when you do these videos like this, you have to also realize that those rules are not just for 10 people, not even for 20 people. It's for all black people. So I'm going to say this here. I understand what she's talking about, but also she has to realize that when you go on any cruise, if you're a black person, they're going to assume that all black people do this behavior that you're basically responding to, that were on the Carnival cruises. So even with your black money and your fancy lifestyle, they look at all black people the same. So you got to be careful, because you may be from a different neighborhood or a different background, or you might have different values, or maybe you just maybe operate on a whole nother attitude. Maybe you grew up in a different environment, or your exposures are different, or your ideas and your belief mindset may be on a different in a different area. But when white people are racist, they don't care how much education you have, how much money you possess. You're going to get some blowback in some area somewhere. You're going to get discriminated somewhere. You're going to be treated just like all the people that you're referring to. you're going to be treated the same way. Nobody's going to look at you and be like, oh, well, wow, this black woman has a lot of money. She's probably an upper class black woman. So they're going to assume that you probably too also do the same things or like the same things, or you are involved in the same activities. So they're not going to separate anybody by, education and by behaviors. They're going to watch you just the same as they watch anyone else. And so, just like I said in a previous video that I did, I went, it wasn't a cruise, it was a boat, like a little boat, small boat trip to Catalina. And, I didn't have any problem. I didn't see any fighting. And, I grew up in a different environment, and so I got bullied because I sounded different, talked different. Was it my exposures were different? But in the beginning, when I was going to school around primarily white children, I was treated in a racist fashion, even though I didn't carry on those behaviors, quote unquote, that some people would say would be, as she referred to, as ratchet. So you can still be discriminated even if you're not acting, quote unquote, ratchet. Because of our skin color, they don't separate and say, well, this one's educated, this one grew up around white children, this one lived in an all predominantly white neighborhood. Now, being at that, I have had those experiences myself. I've seen, on the flip side, white people, quote unquote, get out of pocket. Now, most times cruises are my knowledge were associated with wealth and with white wealth. And you normally would see white people having the luxury of traveling because they have more money at their disposal to go on vacations and trips, as black people who don't have as much money cannot go on those trips to, like, overseas, or unless if they know someone and they know how to get themselves hooked up to go travel, and then they have money at their disposal. But from last I checked, even flying a plane to go to some places can get pretty pricey. And if you're doing it and planning to do that as a, what they say, people go on vacation every year, it can get expensive. And it has, I believe, gotten even more expensive over the years. And I believe cruises are expensive. And so you'd have to have a certain level of income. And so Carnival Cruise, I guess, is the more cheaper in. I did see a video that popped up where a guy was talking about how there were 3 cruise ships that you could go on, and Carnival was named in one of them, that was inexpensive. And I also heard young people saying that they enjoyed going on cruises, that it was fun, there was dancing, and then there was people having a good time. And I didn't hear so much about people getting into fights. So these incidences, probably they have been happening a lot more on the regular, and it's been upsetting the customers, the paying customers, people who have booked trips or short trips on these cruise vessels. What I would say to this woman here, a lot of what she's saying I understand, and I agree that people do need to conduct themselves in a way where they have to realize you aren't the only one on that cruise ship that paid money to have a good time. However, you gotta also be careful about who you're targeting, because there is a lot of, we're living in a climate here where Donald Trump is the president and we're in the Trump administration, and there has been a lot of blowback with major companies like Target and Walmart getting rid of their diversity, equity, and inclusion. So when you do things like this, being a black person, even if you're a black person that has a lot of education and you have a lot more money, you are not realizing that when you say things like this, which you might be passionate about, and you're probably upset because there's a certain group of folks that can take things to a whole nother level. We know this, but this is not only just in the black communities. It can happen in the white communities as well. They also will have a specific level of entitlement. And a lot of it, to me, from my knowledge, cruise ships was tied to wealth. And like you say, you have been on expensive cruise ships. Most of those cruise ships, like you say, that are expensive, that's why a lot of people, even poor white people, can't afford to go on those cruise ships. So when you label just black community as being a particular way, you are pretty much buying into the whole propaganda on labeling your own culture, and that would include you, ma'am. They're going to look at you the same way they look at all those people that are on the cruise ships that have that type of mentality. They're not going to separate you and say, this woman is educated, this woman can afford to go on expensive cruise ships. They're going to see black woman, ratchet, she likes boots on the ground too. And so, just like you said, they don't want to hear hip hop music all day long. Some people don't want to hear classical music, or they don't want to hear elevator music all day long. They want something that's a little more, let's get up and move. They might want to hear disco music. They might want to hear a Hispanic version of music, maybe salsa. They might want to hear slow rock or something like that. Maybe I would say they should have a variety of music. They don't want to hear the same genre of music all day long. So when you say hip hop, that's targeting a specific group when you say that. So when you say they don't want to hear a certain genre of music all day long, let's have a variety of music. That's coming and being honest and saying it at another way where people are not being specifically targeted. But when you specifically say we don't want to hear fans clacking, we don't want to hear no more hip hop music, you are targeting a specific group, and it is a racial thing. So let's not get it twisted on that level. So I just wanted to respond in that sense. It's still going back to, yeah, it is what they're saying is it is targeting that demographic. It is targeting a specific race of people. So they are right on that when they say it is being racist. And she says it's bullshit because she doesn't agree with it, because she doesn't feel that she's the same as the other black people. And there are people we got in the black community that feel because they have more education and they have more money, like she says, she can afford expensive cruise ships. So she has a lot more money, and I'm guessing a lot more education. She was able to articulate everything beautifully. I'm just going to say that it doesn't matter how much education and how much money you have. There have been a lot of black people who are affluent with a lot of education, or they have a lot of money. And just like you have a lot of money, you're spending it on a cruise ship that it goes to white pockets. And it continues to make white people more wealthy. And if you're parting ways with your money and your black dollars and feeding it to white businesses, you're taking it out of the black communities, and it is not serving you any good either. So that's what I'm saying. So anyway, it takes away, like you said, why don't you start a black cruise ship? Now, if it is a black cruise ship and it's successful and it becomes something where it's upper class black people, I wonder would she want to spend all of her money on those cruise ships? You know, those cruise ships that have the upper bourgeois black folks. Just saying.